Hey class, good to see you all. I'm wearing my VCU shirt. Anyway, hope you're doing well. This is going to be our last class, and I'm going to try to keep it short because I know you guys are busy. You have a lot on your plates. So we're going to be done with this, and I'm just going to cover main points that advance the argument. There's a lot that Dennett and Plantinga say that I think are interesting and valuable points, but they're not pushing forward, I think, the main parts of the debate. So let's talk through some of those things. Um, and Yeah, so let's dive right in. Okay, so there's the Superman argument. um, and I have it on the handout there. The belief that Superman guided evolution is analogous to the belief that God guided evolution. Premise two, the belief that Superman guided evolution is unreasonable. Therefore, the belief that God guided evolution is unreasonable. Okay, so I gave the page markers where Dennett and Plantinga are addressing this argument. Dennett says a bunch of things. He's just kind of incredulous because Plantinga thinks, oh, belief in God, belief in Superman, completely different. Dennett's like, how could this be? How he even says, he kind of marvels at how Plantinga's imagination is disciplined on page 46, which I thought was kind of funny. Maybe he thinks because Plantinga is such a theist, he can't really open his mind to seeing how belief in Superman and belief in God are similar. And now he says a lot, but I couldn't quite see exactly how he was trying to support the argument. Now, last time we noticed Plantinga pointed out, Superman wouldn't really be in a place to try to, you know, to I mean, he was raised in Kansas. He couldn't have been the person to plant seeds in evolution and help mutations happen. And on the end of page 48, he did what I hoped he would do, which is he notes that, well, yeah, Superman wasn't that old, but we could say that Poseidon or Aphrodite, maybe they're the ones that did it. And so we could replace the Superman argument and replace it with the Greek gods argument. Um, so I thought that was the obvious move to make for Dennett. Okay, now let's look at what Plantinga says in reply. And again, I'll just go through some main points, but it's good to read everything. So Plantinga's reply, I think, is first to note just kind of a deficiency about arguments from analogy in general, which is any two views are going to be similar in some ways. For example, he points out like atheism has some similarities to solipsism. They both deny that something exists. It's just that atheism denies that God exists. Solipsism denies that everything else other than you exists. But they're both similar because they're asserting that something doesn't exist. And Plantinga wants to say, well, yeah, belief in God and belief in Supermanism or Poseidon or Aphrodite. He doesn't mention them, but I mean they're similar, but they're very different things. He's going to say, just as denying that God exists or denying that everything exists, similar. But believing in Superman is one thing. Believing in God, well, that's a totally different thing. Plantinga's thing. It's a very different type of being you're asserting. And then he goes on to say, you could make Superman more similar to God by giving Superman more attributes by saying, well, maybe Superman existed from the beginning, and Superman's the one that created everything, and Superman is, eternal and so forth. But then that makes Superman just like God. Okay. Now I wasn't quite sure where he was going with that. This is where it'd be really nice if we could have class discussion to see, what lines of arguments might have been going on. Here's my take, and this is on the handout. Ultimately, here's what I think, where I think Dennett's coming from. I think Dennett thinks theism and Supermanism are similar just because he thinks both of them are not supported by evidence. He thinks both of them are just kind of crazy ideas that we don't have any evidence for. And Plantinga thinks that belief in God or theism either is supported by the evidence or it's something we can know directly by religious experience. And that's what he talked about in his early chapters. And so in that sense, it is supported by the evidence. I think that's what it ultimately comes down to, whether about the analogy between God and Superman, or Plantinga mentions the flying spaghetti monster and so forth, and Santa Claus. Really just comes down to where does the evidence point. And I think they could have done better maybe by arguing a little bit more about that. Like Plantinga could have maybe given the fine tuning argument or something else. So anyway, all right. So that's the Superman argument. Let's keep moving.